a scene in the room, even I don't eat roadkill. Now we have one more speech in the debate, Mr. Sanier, and then we'll have a vote. You're here.
I think we've had some very interesting discussions here. So I think the problem is, what's been very unfortunate, is that we really have had a lot of interesting points raised that haven't been answered. Particularly some of Dr. Singer's comments have been particularly interesting, and they haven't really been explored. So I'm going to try to take this brief time we have left to answer some of his points, as well as the point raised by you. Now, I think, speaking in very broad strokes about the point about animals, you need to be careful not to project human interests onto animals. The fundamental preference, if we're going to use Dr. Singer's rubric, that we can assume is that animals that exist today have preferred existence over non-existence, or they wouldn't have competed to survive. So whether the animal is particularly happy or unhappy, I don't think we can say. I don't think happiness is a feature that we can really attribute to animals. We can attribute feeling flourishing, we can attribute health, we can attribute even certain behaviors, whether they're responsive to operant conditioning or not, whether they're aggressive or not. And I really don't think we can attribute happiness. That implies much more. And I think that the other side has constantly drawn upon these distinctly human ideas without really explaining how they're even possible at lower levels of cognition. I think another interesting point Dr. Singer raised is, well, how would we feel about treating human beings who were perhaps not in the moment capable of these things? I mean, people who had suffered from dementia, who had birth defects, who were in a coma. And I think that the answer Dr. Singer would give to dementia is that we would kill those people and consider that ethical. Well, we would not. The implication is that from that speech that we would kill those people or these animals. And I'd like to answer why those people are different. I think we need to understand that being human is a species. But an interesting point raised to me by a friend of mine who's now, who was a student here and who's now a graduate student at the University of Pennsylvania, is that being human is almost a metaphysical state. It's having that nature, that rational, of being a rational creature, whether or not the rationality is regularly exercised. Because if we were excluding non-rational humans, most adolescents would not be considered humans. The type of thing that human beings are is what gives importance and value to their sensations and their decisions. That's where rights come from. The inherent dignity, to use a very loaded term, comes from that capacity, whether it's fully expressed or not, for rationality, deliberation, and choice. To use a friend of Socrates, it's the platonic form of the human being. What a human being is, fully expressed, rather than focusing on the specific features of any one particular individual. That informs how we should treat that class of things that we recognize all the language. For no other reason than the uncertainty. When we have individuals who we assume are brain dead or profound coma, who, it turns out, one, wake up without much explanation medically yet. We don't understand how that works. And two, we're aware of what was going on during their lives, during those periods. Now, there are other people that don't. I don't think that's a reason to kill them. I think that's a reason to be cautious and to tend toward the path, to favor the rights of human beings. I think a second point is there was a degree of cultural chauvinism here, and I'm surprised as someone from the right accusing the left of cultural chauvinism. I would say there's nothing in principle wrong with those Southeast Asian cultures, the ones that I'm familiar with, where dogs and cats are considered delicacies. We don't eat them because we cultivated them. We domesticated them as companion animals. Dogs for hunting, cats basically for pest control. And now they become companions to us. That is the norm in our culture. That doesn't carry the same moral weight as whether or not someone is a human or what kind of a being. That's a practice. And a third point, I feel that Dr. Singer did distort one of our points, perhaps because I didn't make it clearly. I'm not as eloquent. I don't hold an advanced degree, unfortunately. And the point is, industrial production of meat is problematic, is objectionable, but we cannot abandon it now because the radical shift, if we were for instance, to close all these facilities, would create enormous spikes in the price of food. One of the reasons that the poor in the United States no longer face seasonal famine, one of the reasons that the poor are no longer starving in the streets, by and large, is because of the existence of these vast, highly efficient from an economic, if not ecological standpoint, industrialized centers of production. So while we may have the luxury of picking and choosing free-range this and grass-fed that, or of cultivating our own crops if we have the land. My great-grandfather had a chicken farm, and I'll tell you how you ethically kill a chicken. The same way you used to ethically kill a convict, break their neck. Yeah. And I remember he would do this, and they would bring in the chicken for dinner. And I don't think Dr. Sayer would object to that practice in and of itself, because it is a quick, painless death. Chicken doesn't even see it coming. None of the arguments advanced from this side of the room have necessarily led to the conclusion that vegetarianism is the morally correct answer. They've been critiques of the existing praxis in the meat industry. And they've been surprising sort of questioning of the fundamental moral framework of our ecology, the human's place in the world, and the animal's place in the world, and different animals' places within the animal kingdom. And we can have a debate about that, but we have neither the time nor the inclination tonight. The room is full, everyone wants to go, and we're out of time.
Thanks everyone for coming. Thank you to our debaters. So now we'll have a vote, and our normal voting format is to have everyone sort of come up to this side of the room if they like that side, or that side if they like this side.